Hello, everyone. Welcome to Barca News. It is March 20th, 2024, and we now know the real reason why Joao Cancelo was dropped out of the Atletico Madrid match lineup. Also, an imminent decision is right around the corner in regards to the Puma versus Nike ordeal. And finally, Barcelona have begun negotiation with three of La Masia gems in order to renew their contracts. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel. This is Mo, or my name is Mo. This is Barca News' live podcast, which is on every Mondays and Wednesdays, usually at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I do apologize for starting the podcast late. I had an incredibly long day at work. In fact, I just got home from work, and the first thing I did was to put my stuff down, hop on my computer, and get this live stream going, because I know you guys are waiting for your daily FC Barcelona update. But don't worry, I'm here. I'm ready to give you all the news, and we have some pretty interesting news in this podcast. Now, having said that, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. All of this helps the channel continue to grow. Also, if you are looking for any Barcelona jerseys or merchandise, make sure you hit the kit bag. And if you are looking to place any sports bets, make sure you hit the Bet Us. If you use my links, which are down in the description, you get special offers for both kit bag and also for Bet Us. But let's start with the news so then we can move on to the comments. As always, I love to read you guys' comments, answer your questions, and get a discussion going. But let's start with the news, because we now know the real reason why Joao Cancelo was dropped from the Atletico de Madrid match lineup. Now, Cancelo was set to start that match against Atletico Madrid, where Barcelona won 0-3 in a very good performance by the team. And during the last few moments right before the match, we found out that Cancelo was not going to be participating, and that instead Héctor Ford was going to be taking his place. And initially, Barcelona's version was that Joao Cancelo had felt some discomfort, that he had suffered an injury during training, and that is why Barcelona had decided to remove the player from the lineup. But as soon as the match ended, Fermín López, who scored a goal during that match, dedicated the victory of the match to Joao Cancelo, because he said he was worried about him because everything that Joao Cancelo was going through. And that's when we found out that Cancelo had not been dropped out of the lineup because of an injury, but instead because he had suffered some kind of personal problem that we did not know about. Now, there was some speculation about what was going on. Some people were saying that maybe a family member had passed away, maybe a family member had gotten sick. Well, now we know exactly why Cancelo was dropped out of the lineup. And it seems that it does have to do with a family member. It seems that Joao Cancelo has a family member who has just been diagnosed with a very serious heart condition, which in certain occasions that condition could be hereditary. And as such, the club decided to take all precautions, drop Cancelo from the lineup, and instead put him through some rigorous testing to see whether Joao Cancelo had inherited that heart problem. Because had he inherited it, that means that Cancelo's career would have been pretty much over. And given that Barcelona went through the whole El Kun Agüero situation, when Kun Agüero came and he suffered that heart episode on the field, and then it was diagnosed that he had a heart problem, which ended his career. Given that Barcelona had gone through that, they didn't want to go through that again. So they decided, out of precaution, to pull Cancelo out of the match. And then instead, they have made sure that he underwent all kinds of rigorous testing. And the good news is that after many, many tests, it's been revealed that Joao Cancelo does not have that problem. He has not inherited that problem from his family member, and that Joao Cancelo's heart is 100% healthy, which is great news for the player, because it means he will be able to continue playing football, and good news for us because we will be able to continue enjoying the services of the Portuguese fullback, at least for now. We'll see how his signing goes on in the summer. So really good news on that front. Cancelo does not have any heart problems, which is very alleviating to the player. Reports are saying that he was extremely worried, very stressed. Of course, why wouldn't he? if you're worried that you might have a heart problem that can end your career, of course, you're going to be stressed. But no more stress, no more worry, because Cancelo is 100% healthy. His heart is 100% healthy. So great news. And what a great way to start this podcast with great news. But now, let's start with the chat section to see what you amazing people have to say. But first, let me put on my glasses because I am blind. All right, Roland says, hello from Liberia. What's up, Roland? I saw Roland. He was waiting for the live stream to begin. So thank you for your patience, Roland. And Grandmaster Yoda says, what's up, Mo? Do you think Hector Fort could be a potential starter in the right back position against Las Palmas to give Gunde some rest before PSG? I think that would be a very valid option. I think Xavi should explore that option seriously because, like you said, Kunde needs rest. Kunde has played every single match this year. I'm sure he's going to play with France. He's very important for France too. So very important that we rest him, especially ahead of the PSG match. And not just the PSG match, we also have a Clásico match coming up. So I think Las Palmas would be a great time to have someone like Hector Fort get more minutes, get more experience, while at the same time resting someone as important as Kunde for the more important matches, which are, again, El Clásico and PSG. The Matrix says we are Barcelona. We need to go with who have the wider reach and the more money to offer. I'm guessing you're talking about Nike and Puma. We'll talk about it. Of course, it's not as simple as just saying who's offering more money. Let's just go with them. There's a lot more complications to that, which I will discuss in detail in the next segment. And Gio says, Mo, do you think Onana is a Barca level CDM? I personally don't think so. Not because necessarily he's not Barca level. I think Onana is an incredibly talented CDM, or at least he has the potential to be a very talented CDM. I don't think he's Barca level because we've learned that time and time again. Barcelona have not really benefited from big, physical, strong CDMs. Onana's that kind of CDM, more of a destroyer. Barcelona, we've never needed that. Barcelona, we've always given us our style of play. We've always depended on more on pivots who are more skilled with the ball at their feet, that can distribute the ball well, they can pass the ball well, they can break lines with their passes. We've always benefited from that. And whenever we've tried to go with the whole physical, strong pivot, has not worked out. Kessie is a good example. Oriol Romeo is another good example. So I don't think Onana would be a good fit either. Again, we need a pivot that can, has that ability of ball distribution, which Onana does not really. Onana is great defensively, but offensively, not so much. And that's what Barcelona usually look for in their pivots. Anyways, since someone mentioned Nike and Puma, let's dive right into the news about Nike and Puma, because it's reported that Barcelona are very close on reaching a final decision, and an imminent decision should be made in the next few weeks. Now, we all know by now what's going on with Nike and Puma. Barcelona have been trying to negotiate with Nike for quite some time to try to increase their contract because it's way, way below market value. Nike, for the longest time, they were saying no, until finally Barcelona said, okay, we're going to break the contract. We're going to start our own kits with the help of Hummel, and then we'll sign with Puma, who have offered Barcelona a lot more money than Nike. And that put pressure on Nike to increase their offer, to increase it to 85 million euros per season, plus 20 million euros in variables, which then in turn pressured Puma to increase their offer even more, where Puma are offering Barcelona 120 million euros per season, plus 100 million euro signing bonus. Now, as I reported, I think it was a couple of days ago, Joan Laporta has sided with Puma. He wants to break the contract with Nike. He wants to join Puma because Puma's contract is obviously much higher than Nike's. Also, Laporta is very disappointed with Nike. It's reported that when he first joined the club and actually laid his eyes on the actual contract between Barcelona and Nike that Bartomeu had signed, he was absolutely furious. He couldn't believe that Nike were only paying Barcelona 30 million euros per season. So Laporta, very furious with Nike. He appreciates Puma's much, much higher offer, so he has sided with Puma. And it's reported that not just Joan Laporta has sided with Puma, but all the nucleus around him, all the people who are very close to Laporta, kind of like the people who are the ones with the most power within the club, are all sided with Puma. They all want to break the contract with Nike and go with Puma. But of course, it's not as easy as just saying, oh, well, Puma pays more money, let's just go with them. There are a lot of repercussions to go in with Puma. Now, Barcelona have reportedly been studying this whole situation with their legal department. Barcelona's lawyers have been studying, what kind of repercussions they can have, how much can Nike sue them, what are the likelihood of Nike getting a certain amount of money in lawsuit, how much money that lawsuit would cost, and if there is a verdict in favor of Nike, how would that affect the club? Because remember, Nike are threatening to sue Barcelona for 350 million euros. It doesn't mean that Nike would automatically get it in court, but if they were, 350 million euros could bankrupt the club. So I want to make sure that people understand this, because I keep seeing people in the comment, oh, let's just go with Puma. Let's just go with Puma. Going with Puma could end up bankrupting the club if Nike were to sue Barcelona and win a huge, huge amount in court. So this is a very, very serious decision. This is not as easy as just saying, let's just go with whoever pays more money. We have to think about what are the probabilities of Nike winning, how much can they win, and how much that would affect the club. Now, there's another thing that Barcelona need to seriously consider, and it's that Barcelona's 125th anniversary, which is in November 29, same day as my birthday, because Barcelona are expecting to sell millions of jerseys, the 125th year anniversary jersey. So they need to seriously consider who will be the sponsor by then, whether it's going to be Nike, or if they break with Nike and go with Puma, is Puma going to be able to produce enough jerseys by then? So there's definitely very, very serious repercussions to move into Puma. And even though Jan Laporta wants to go with Puma, and even though if it was up to him, he would go with Puma tomorrow, because that's how upset he is with Nike, he does not want to rush into it, because Laporta and his board understand how serious it is to break the contract with Nike. And as such, the news is that on March 26th, so in 6 days, there will be a board of director meeting where all of this is going to be discussed in detail. The legal department will have its report that's going to be discussed. The finance department will have their report on how breaking the contract with Nike would affect the club's economy. And everything's going to be discussed all down to the details. And by then, we're going to know a lot more about what Barcelona could be leaning towards. Again, Laporta and the people who are very close with him, they want Puma, but they don't want to rush into it, because as I've said, this is a serious, serious decision. They can have very long-term effects. So Barcelona want to take their time. They're going to discuss everything on March 26th. And even though the club are saying they're not going to have a final decision by then, but by March 26th, things are going to be much, much more clear. And a decision should follow soon after that. So make sure to tune to the channel. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button and the notification button, because there's going to be a lot of news coming out in the next few days on who will be Barcelona's next sponsor, which will be a historical decision if Barcelona were to break with Nike and go with Puma. All right, let's do the comment section. Sorry, my nose is itching because my allergies are killing me. Let's see. Where did we leave off? Let me put on my glasses so I can see what I'm reading. Shamar says, what's up, Mo? Just joined the live. Thank you, thank you. Let's see. And Joey, who's watching from South Africa. What's up, Joey? Thank you for tuning in. I know it's pretty late over there, so thank you for doing that. And let's see. Ahmad says, Big Mo, just I want to say that for great videos to provide, you are my favorite Barcelona news. I watch all your videos. Thanks again, brother. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your support. I really, really appreciate it. And Gia says, Mo, are you concerned over the lack of players that Barca Athletic team will have due to their international duty? Do you think they have enough depth to maintain second place, or even without these 12 players? It's actually 18 players, because 12 have been called up to their national teams, and there are 6 who are injured. So they're actually going to be missing 18 players. So Rafa Marquez is going to have to call up players from the Juvenil A, Juvenil B, maybe even Cadete. So there's definitely going to be a problem. Hopefully, Barca Athletic can get through the next match, which is Cornellà, because, like you mentioned, they are in second place. They're only 1 point behind first place, which is Deportivo La Coruña. And if Barca Athletic finish in first place, they automatically get promoted to the second division, which would be huge for Barcelona, because it would be an increase in revenue, maybe not too much, because those leagues don't generate much money, but it would be much more than the third division. But most importantly, for the players, because after all, Barca Athletic is kind of like the team where we test out players to see if they're good enough for the first team. And well, what a better way to test them out in the second division rather than the third, right? The second division is a bigger challenge, so we can really test out players in that second division. These players can mature more playing in the second division and in the third. And then when they move up to the first team, it's not as big of a jump, right? It's a huge jump to go from third to first division than from second to first. So I think it'll be a huge boost. Hopefully, Rafa Marquez can pull through with the reinforcements from the lower teams. We'll see. Shamar says, Mo, what do you think if Barca tried Prim for some games to see how he fits? Also, Cancelo as well. Really interested to see what the Academy CDMs have to offer. Oh, Casado, I'm sorry. I mean, I've been wanting to see Pau Prim, or even more importantly, Marc Bernal. But in order to try out these players, I think, given that it's such a critical position, the CDM position, it would have to be in matches against weaker opponents and where Barcelona are winning by a big margin. And we've seen lately that Barcelona do not really win by big margins and that they even struggle against small teams. So the question is when, right? Against Atletico Madrid, we did well. We were up 3-0, so we were able to bring in Casado. We're going to see a repeat of that. If Barcelona, can maintain their performance, continue to close out matches early on, then yeah, we'll be able to see more of these players. But if Barcelona continue to struggle till the final moment against even the smallest teams, then it's going to be more difficult. But we'll have to see. And Stal says LeBron James to Barca. Here we go. Yeah, maybe he can be goalie. He is pretty big. But anyways, speaking of, since someone mentioned Pau Prim, let's talk about the academy players, because Barcelona have begun negotiations for 3 of La Masia's gems or jewels or stars or whatever you want to call them. And the first player is, of course, no other than our center back, our gem, Pau Cubarsí, who Barcelona have already began negotiations with his entourage in order to extend his contract, because, of course, there's absolutely no doubt that Cubarsí should be in Barcelona for a very, very long time, given how skilled and talented he is. Now, Cubarsí, at 17 years old, his contract expires in 2026. So we do have a couple more seasons before his contract expires. Of course, given that he is an academy player, his release clause is only 10 million euros or around 10 million euros, which of course is incredibly, incredibly low, which puts him within reach for any club almost in the world. So that's another reason why Barcelona want to renew his contract. They want to extend it because they want him at the club for as long as possible. But they also want to increase that release clause so another club cannot just come and snatch him away. Now, Chelsea have expressed interest in Pau Cubarsí. Of course they have. Chelsea have expressed interest in every player and their mothers. They're kind of like, I don't know if you've seen that scene where it's like, please, sir, when there's like someone begging for bread. I feel like that's Chelsea to any club. Like, please, sir, give me some players. That's Chelsea. But of course, Cubarsí and Barcelona are not interested. Cubarsí wants to stay at the club, and the club wants to keep Cubarsí. So sorry, Chelsea. You'll have to go somewhere else to look for players. But just know that Barcelona have began negotiations with Cubarsí's entourage to extend his contract, increase his release clause, and they want to do that as soon as he turns 18 years old so they can give him a much longer contract, because when you're under 18, you can, of course, only sign, I think it's 2 years. That's why Lamine, when he turned 16, he signed his contract only until 2026, which is when he turns 18, because you can't give him longer contracts, if I'm not mistaken. So Cubarsí, once he turns 18, Barcelona want to give him his long contract with a high release clause. But of course, they want to first negotiate that way. As soon as he turns 18, everything's negotiated, contracts are drafted, and all Cubarsí has to do is put ink to paper, and done, sealed, good to go. The second player that Barcelona have already began negotiations with his entourage is, of course, Héctor Fort, who I told you, I think it was yesterday or the day before, that Barcelona have already made a final decision that Héctor Fort will be promoted to the first team. He will become a first-team player next season. And with that, of course, Barcelona want to give him a big contract. They want to give him a long contract with a high release clause, a contract that reflects his salary as a first-team player, because the 16-year-old's contract does expire in 2025. And just like Cubarsí, he also has a 10 million euro release clause, which is incredibly low. And just like Cubarsí, Barcelona want to wait for Fort to turn 18 so they can give him a long contract with a better salary, higher release clause. But they've already started contacting the entourage of Hector Fort because, again, they want to have everything negotiated, everything drafted. So as soon as Fort turns 18, pen the paper, done deal, let's move on. Now, the third La Masia gem that Barcelona have already began negotiating with his entourage is that of Margiu, our 18-year-old center forward, who, unlike Cubarsí and Fort, he is 18 years old already. So Barcelona don't have to wait until he's 18. They can give him a long contract right now. And Marc Casado's contract expires in, Margiu's contract expires in 2025, just like Hector Fort. So the same thing, Barcelona want to extend it past 2025. They want to give him a higher release clause, higher salary. And of course, we don't have to wait until he's 18 because he is already 18. And since I did say Marc Casado, I guess my subconscious was getting ahead of me. But it's reported that Barcelona have reached out to Marc Casado's entourage again, which is very surprising because Casado's contract expires this summer. He is refusing to renew his contract. They had a first round of negotiation with him, which did not go well. But it seems that Barcelona want to try again, so they reached out to his entourage again. And we'll see what happens this time around. There are a lot of clubs interested in Casado, including Valencia, who are the ones who are most insistent on him. They're offering him a first-team position. So we'll see how this second round of negotiations go, whether Casado will want to renew or not, because his contract again expires this summer. However, Casado does have a 1-year option to extend. So if Barcelona decide to extend his contract, it can be unilateral, and they can extend it until 2025. But of course, this is a decision that Deco will have to do. But just know that Barcelona are now trying for a second time to extend the contract of Casado, which expires in 2024 with an option to extend until 2025. Of course, Casado is 20 years old. So unlike Fort, unlike Cubarsí, Barcelona would be able to give him a long contract if that's what they want. All right, so that's all the players that Barcelona want to have began to negotiations to renew. And let's go back to the comment section and see. Joey says, I don't trust international break. It kills us. I'm so glad Pedri and Frankie are out. Lamine must look after him. So apparently the Spanish national team have promised Barcelona that they're going to be very careful with Lamine and Cubarsí. They're going to, try to rotate them, so not exhaust them. So hopefully nothing goes wrong during this international break because, yeah, you're right. We have been cursed in the past. And Trick Chocolat says, dude, didn't you report a couple of weeks ago that Puma offered to pay Barca's breach of contract fee? What gives? They offered to help, not to pay the whole thing. Nobody would be crazy enough to pay the whole thing. And they're helping by increasing their offer. 100 million signing bonus, 120 season. That's how they would be doing their part. But no one in their right mind is going to be like, okay, yeah, whatever the lawsuit says, I'll write you a check. Now, because if Nike win 350 million euro verdict, why would Puma do that? They're going to be in the negative. But Joey says, I'll say let's stay with Nike. We came a long way with them. They must increase their offer. Thanks for Puma effort, but let's keep Nike. We'll see. I would prefer to go with Puma, but of course, I do understand that it's an incredibly sensitive decision. It's not very easy, so we'll see what the club comes up with. Let's see. Sambav says, did you see Ferran Torres coming back to starting 11 once he returns from injury? That's a good question. I think we will in some matches because Lamine cannot start every match. So I think we'll see Ferran start some matches probably in place of Lamine to give him some rest. And given that Ferran has been a tad better than Raphinha this season, I do see it. Not that Ferran is, I believe Ferran and Raphinha are both not Barca level and they both should be sold. But this season, Ferran has been a tad better than Raphinha before his injury. And given that Lamine needs to be rested, I think so. I think I could see him starting some matches. Or maybe we can see him starting alongside Lamine because, on the left, we only have Joao, who's very inconsistent. So maybe we could see, Ferran on the left with Lamine on the right, or maybe Raphinha on the right with Ferran on the left, giving Lamine some rest. So I do see him starting some matches for sure. Okay, let's see. Mark says, Mo, Koundé must play only right back at Barcelona. Him at CB is a disaster. I disagree. Koundé's a very talented center back, but of course, when he's constantly being played as right back, he's not having consistency as a center back. Of course, when he gets put back as center back, he's going to suffer. That's just the nature of any player. When a player doesn't play in a position for too long, when they come back to it, it's hard. You need a few matches before you can get back into rhythm. So I don't think Kunde's a disaster as a center back. Absolutely not. But I do like him as a right back. And given that we do have a surplus of center backs, yeah, I would like him to keep playing at right back, but not because he's a disastrous center back. And Trick Chocolate says, this summer Chelsea's going to be like, please, sir, take our players so we don't end up. I mean, that's literally what they're doing. They're like buying 50 players one window. Then the second window, they sell 49 of them and sign 50 more. And then the next window, they sell 49 of those and sign. I don't know what the hell's going on with Chelsea. I don't know if they own kind of like a printer for money, because they're not even owned by like an oil country, an Arab oil country or Gulf country, where it's like, all right, those countries can print money easily because we all use gas. But I don't know where they get that money, but and it's, please, sir, let me have some players. I had to do that again. All right. And speaking of Raphinha, since I just mentioned him, let's talk about the Brazilian player, because he is one of the favorites to leave the club during this summer. Barcelona, even though they appreciate Raphinha's efforts, they understand that he is not the player that they thought they were signing, because when Barcelona spent over 60 million euros on Raphinha, they were hoping to bring kind of like a star, someone who can decide matches for you, kind of like a Lamine. Of course, he's proven that he's not that. So Barcelona, and given that Xavi Hernandez was his biggest advocate, the reason why Barcelona signed Raphinha was because Xavi requested him. The reason why Raphinha has stayed at the club is because Xavi has always defended him and considered him an important player for his team. But now that Xavi will be leaving, and now that Barcelona have noticed that Raphinha is not really at the level that they thought he was, and since he does have a good market value, Raphinha is looking like to be one of the favorites to leave in the summer, because Barcelona could free up a lot of space on their wage bill, because Raphinha does have a high salary. And of course, they can make some good money off his transfer. But of course, the problem is with Raphinha is he currently does not really have an agent. He is still signed to Deco's agency, but of course, Deco no longer has that agency. He sold it when he became the sporting director for Barcelona. So he's still signed with his agency, but it's not really a clear idea on who his agent is. So Barcelona are hoping to employ the services of Pini Sabi, the really good friend of Laporta, and of course, Jorge Mendes, in order to try to find good suitors for Raphinha, suitors who would be willing to pay Barcelona a lot of money. Of course, we heard that Saudi Arabia are interested in Raphinha. They're willing to pay 80 million euros for him. But what's the problem with all this? Is that Raphinha is not really looking to go to Saudi or to some small club or to some random league somewhere. He wants to compete at the highest level. So if he leaves the club, it's going to have to be for like a Premier League club, top 5, top 6 Premier League club, because he wants to play Champions League, which of course this does complicate things for Barcelona, because that limits their option on who they would want to sell him. And plus, there aren't many top teams who want Raphinha. So that, of course, makes things difficult. So what I'm trying to say is buckle your seatbelts, because we are going to have a Raphinha transfer saga from here until the summer transfer market closes, with Barcelona looking to cash out on his sale, and with Raphinha will probably going to be fighting his exit. Anyways, let's get back to the chat section. Gio says, Mo, if you could rewatch any Barcelona game in history live in the stadium, which one would it be? Barcelona PSG 6-1. I think, watching it on TV was absolutely insane. Just, it's the biggest comeback in the history of the Champions League. It's something that not even the most positive person in the world ever imagined would happen. And it happened. And the way it happened, with Sergio Roberto scoring that goal in the stoppage time. And so watching it on TV was already crazy. I can't imagine what it was to watch it at a sold-out Camp Nou with the crowd just going nuts. So I would definitely love to see that match. But of course, there's many. But if I had to choose one, I think that one would be. And Kara King says, Puma is willing to make kits available for a wider fan base. Nike was holding back Barca for long enough time to make change for better. Agree, but like I said, it's not as easy as that. If decision could end up bankrupting Barcelona if Nike were to win a big verdict. So, do you prefer to have a sponsor who's not paying you too much money or no club at all? So, very delicate situation, and we have to think about it very thoroughly. Not the Gamer says, do you think Alba is still Barca level? He's currently Marseille's best player and now Europa League all-time top scorer. Look, I think Alba was always good enough for Barca. We saw it when he came, but do you really want a 35, 36-year-old striker when we already have one? It doesn't make sense. We're trying to rebuild our squad. We're trying to, bet on the youngsters. It doesn't make sense to bring another old striker when we already have one. If we didn't have one, maybe I'd be like, okay, yeah, we can sign him. If we can sign him for low, he could be kind of like that sub that comes in the last 20, 30 minutes, scores a goal, wins the match. He can be that veteran that can teach, the youngsters like Roque and you. But we already have that in Lewandowski. And by the way, Lewandowski's in way, way better shape than Alba is. Vaughn says, Raphinha loves Barcelona and has a contract. He's not going anywhere. Ask De Jong. Yeah, but the difference between Raphinha and De Jong is that De Jong is way more important to the squad. So De Jong saying, no, I don't want to leave. I'm sticking to my contract. That's something that Barcelona could deal with because they'll be like, okay, yeah, we do count on him. So if he wants to stay, he wants to stay. He's not hurting anyone. Raphinha is not that. He's been benched by a 16-year-old. So if Raphinha says, I don't want to leave, Barcelona could be like, okay, we're just benching you. You're not playing a single match. That's going to make him reconsider things. With De Jong, it was harder to say, okay, you don't want to leave? Okay, we're going to bench you. Because by benching him, it would hurt the team. If you bench Raphinha, it's not going to hurt the team. In fact, it's actually better for the team because the team plays better with Lamine, right? So it's completely two different situations. Barcelona could easily tell Raphinha, you don't want to leave? Okay, we're benching you. You're not playing a single match. And that goes your chances to be called up to the Brazilian national team. So it's a lot easier to try to, or not easy, a lot easier, but definitely easier to try to push Raphinha out than to try to push De Jong out, given their importance. Let's see. Not the Gamer says, who has had a better time at Barca? Raphinha, Alcantara, or Raphinha, the fake Brazilian? I don't know. I guess Alcantara. Oh, Alcantara? I don't know, honestly. Couldn't tell you. Bond says, if Xavi ends up piping Madrid and gets to the next round of championship leagues, we will beg him to stay. If that happens, don't cry. I wouldn't. I would cry, but not because we would be asking him to I would cry because we would be asking him to stay because I think it would be an incredible mistake to ask Xavi to stay. First, the fact that he's not good enough coach, and I'm not going to go over it because I feel like a broken record saying a million times why I think Xavi's not the right coach. But the other part is, why the hell would you want a coach that doesn't want to be at the club? A coach that doesn't want to be at a club has no business being at that club. It's the same with players, right? As soon as the player says, oh, I want to leave, even if he has a contract, the club could technically say you're not leaving, you have a contract. But what do clubs do? They go ahead and offload those players because even though they have contracts, you don't want a player that doesn't want to be there. So why the hell do you want a coach who doesn't want to be there? Right? Xavi resigned. He didn't get sacked. He wasn't forced to resign. It was his own decision. He said, I don't want to be at Barca. And since then, it's been 2 months, and he's repeated it a million times. He's like, I want to leave. I want to leave. I want to leave. So let him leave. Why would you want to keep someone who doesn't want to be there? It just makes zero sense to me. That's like setting everything aside, that whether he's a good coach or crappy coach, even if he was a great coach, if he wants to leave, let him leave. Why would you want to keep him? Even if he was a great coach, which he's not. So double reasons on why the hell would you want to keep him, even if we win the Champions League. Because you got to realize something. Winning a trophy does not equate playing good. Those two don't always go hand in hand. La Liga last season was the biggest example of that. Yes, we won La Liga, but we didn't really win it convincingly. We barely scraped by 1-0, 0-1, playing awful football, boring, slow, sluggish, highly predictable football. Real Madrid, their last Champions League, they won it. Very, very bad football too. So winning does not necessarily equate good performance. But anyways. Hemanga says, if Barca wins Championship League, which is not possible, will you want him as coach? I just answered that. The answer is no. And Richard says, Faye has a bright future and he's going to be the best defensive player in Europe and not Europe only. He does look like he has a very bright future. We'll see how he does with the first team. Let's not forget, he still has to prove himself. And, sometimes players could look extremely promising when they're in Barca Athletic or in the academy. And then when they make it to first division, not so much. I don't think that's going to happen with Mika Faye. I think he's an incredibly talented player. I think he will prove himself eventually. But, let's take it one day at a time because in football, you never know. All right, ladies and gents, thank you so much for tuning in, for your likes, your comments, your subscriptions. You guys are absolutely amazing. I will see you in a news video, which I should be uploading in the next hour or two. And until then, Visca Barça.